Hey, Savvy Social Workers, welcome to the condensed version of the Community and Macro Practice Masterclass. So the actual Masterclass is now available where you are going to get in-depth studies of all of these topics here. What I have done for the purposes of this video is condense the video by at least 50% of what's in the actual master class. Along with in the master class, you're going to get way more material. You're going to get so many practice questions and quizzes for each topic that we go along with. So basically, I just wanted to provide something in a condensed version of all the topics that are being discussed and provided in the masterclass, and also to provide some type of help or assistance to let you know the main topics that you should be preparing for and the main things that you should look for the community and macro practice portion of the exam. So a lot of people are saying they're not um, aware of where to get materials to study for. So this video kind of serves as the purposes for that. So yes, we're going to get into it, but just be mindful that this is not the full version of this video. The full version of this video is in my community and macro practice masterclass, along with a ton of other resources and information that is provided along the topic. So first, we're going to get into the three levels of social work, which are micro, meso, and macro. Micro is when we are working one-on-one with individuals or families. Meso is when we expand it just a little bit and we're working with formal groups and organizations. This can be like an agency at work, a school, anything like that. And macro, we're working with communities and societies. So this would be more on the neighborhood level. What is macro social work? Macro social work entails changing, negating, or repairing large-scale systemic issues that affect large groups of people or entire communities and cultures. So heavy on the keyword large groups. Macro social work encompasses practices like social work research, program development for small and large communities, community-based education initiatives, policy analysis and advocacy, nonprofit administration and leadership, and organizational development. Community organizing. What is community organizing? Community organizing is the process of building power by connecting people with common concerns and mobilizing them to seek the solutions to those problems, identifying the people and structures that can make those solutions possible, and creating pressure on those targets through negotiation or confrontation to reach a resolution. So, community organizing is about empowering individuals to take control of their own lives and work together to affect change. It involves identifying the needs and concerns of a community, building relationships between people, and developing community organizing strategies to address those needs. Community organizing is also a method used by social workers to engage and empower people within groups, organizations, and communities with the purpose of increasing their influence to solve social issues that community members have recognized and to bring about positive changes within that affect their lives. With the understanding that the community is its own best expert, the social worker is joining forces to partner with the community to help bring about problem resolution and change in the community. So, the goal of community organizing is to generate durable power for an organization representing the community, allowing it to influence key decision makers on various issues. It also focuses on distributing power more equally throughout the community. So we want to put emphasis on the community being its best expert, and we are trying to empower the people in this community to work towards problem resolution. Some of the values of community organization is working with and not for clients to enhance their participatory skills. So we want to work with them, not for them. We want to develop leadership for them to be able to act on their own problems. We want to strengthen the community so that they are better able to deal with future problems. Redistributing resources in order to enhance the resources of the disadvantaged. Planning changes in systematic and scientific ways. These are all community organization values. Advancing the interests of the disadvantaged in order for them to have a voice in the process of distribution of social resources. And of course, rational problem solving. Now, here's where it gets really important for questions on the ASWB exam. You are going to have to know the steps to community organizing. They will give you a scenario at any phase of these steps, and you will have to either know, well, most of the time you have to know what that current stage entails and usually what comes next after it. So we're going to thoroughly break down the steps of community organizing to hopefully help you with that. This slide entails the models of community organization, which we will definitely break down each one in depth, but you need to know that the three models are locality development, or they refer to it as community development, social planning, and social action. These are the three that are all likely to be seen somewhere amongst the community questions on the ASWB exam. So in the following slides, we are going to break each one of them down in depth. Now let's switch gears and talk about program development. Program development is essentially a roadmap, an action plan that provides the guidance needed to develop and build effective community programs. Now let's talk about social policy analysis. Policy practice is defined as using social work skills to propose and change policies in order to achieve the goal of social and economic justice. The goal of policy practice in social work is to ensure social and economic justice in the social environment so that all people, regardless of their socioeconomic status, race, ethnicity, religion, or sexual orientation, have opportunities to achieve success for themselves and their family. That is the goal of policy practice. Now, policy analysis is a systematic approach to solving problems through policies. So it involves, number one, identifying the problem. So when you identify the problem, always know the history of the policy. This is usually one of the first things, and I've seen it within some exam questions, to where if you are wanting to identify what the problem is, you got to know like what problem brought about this policy. So know the history of the policy. So I would tell people know that out the gate. Also, you're needing to know that in step 3, but I just tell people go ahead and put that as number 1 when you're identifying the problem. Problem analysis is having a clear understanding of what created the situation requiring such a policy. So again, know that history. Step 2, develop some alternatives. Step 3, assessing the impacts of the alternatives, such as a cost benefit analysis, which we talked about in the last slide. Assess the social policy and or program being considered as a means of addressing the problem or offering relief to the victims of the problem. Okay. Step 4, again, in policy analysis, we're going to select a desired option from those alternatives, okay, that we did in the previous step. And then after that, we are designing and implementing the policy. and then evaluating the outcomes. When we evaluate the outcomes, of course, we want to draw conclusions and judge the merits of the policy or program under analysis. Okay, so these are the steps to policy analysis. After you have a policy in place and you're asked to analyze it, you want to see, okay, well, first, what was the problem and what could be some alternatives to this problem? Okay, assess those alternatives and then select a desired option. Select one. Design and implement a new policy if there's one already in place, and then evaluate the outcomes. Now, it's very important for you to make sure that all who might be affected by a decision or a proposed change are invited to participate in the discussion and encouraged to voice their thoughts and concerns. So gather and organize ideas to promote creativity. So when you are talking about making changes to a policy or bringing on a new policy, anybody who is going to affect, you need to hear their voice. Their voices need to be heard. Please keep that in mind, because on the exam, it will look like, you're analyzing a policy or something like that. Whatever answer choice that includes the community is liable to be a great one to consider, because that is one of the most important things when we're talking about policy analysis. All right, now everybody's favorite subject, social work research, which is a systematic investigation into the problems in the field of social work. There are three broad types of research: experimental, quasi-experimental, and pre-experimental. I would definitely tell you to know the differences between each of these, because it's highly likely if you receive a research question on the exam, it could be about the three broad types of research. So experimental, it looks at the average effect of an intervention between groups of people. Quasi-experimental uses interventions in comparison groups, but assignment to the groups is non-random, so it's not random at all. And so experimental is random, quasi is not random, and then pre-experimental contains intervention groups only and lack comparison and control groups, making them the weakest. Here is where we are discussing the observation methods of research. And so the main two are qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative is a method to collect data via open-ended and conversational discussions, such as focus groups or interviews. And then quantitative is data that can be analyzed to conclude numerical or statistical results, such as polls and surveys. Here are some common social work research methods: surveys, experiments, interviews, observation, program evaluations, needs assessments. In the masterclass, we do go into each type a little bit more in depth, but for purposes of this presentation, these are the most common social work research methods. All right, now when we're talking about testing and assessment, we need to know the difference between reliability and validity. Reliability concerns the ability to get consistent assessments or data by reducing random errors associated with its collection. So we want those to be consistent and reliable. Validity is the degree to which what is being measured is what it claims to be measured. It attempts to minimize systematic errors that may yield reliable results, but do not actually assess the constructs of interest. Okay, so reliability and validity are two different things. So trying to make sure something is reliable versus valid are two different things. So there are different means to assess validity. Of course, we have internal and external validity. So internal addresses the extent to which causal inferences can be made about the intervention and targeted behavior, and external addresses how generalizable those inferences are to the general population. Okay, so internal is more targeted, external is more general. I would definitely recommend knowing the difference between reliability and validity, as well as knowing what internal and external validity is. Here are some NASW Code of Ethics guidelines for research. Research should cause no harm to subjects. Participants must give informed consent. Participants can withdraw from the study at any time. Researchers should fully disclose their identity. Anonymity or confidentiality must be maintained. Participants should be told about any limits to confidentiality. Research findings should be accurately reported. The benefits of a research project should outweigh any foreseeable risk, and social workers should ensure participants have access to appropriate supportive services. And lastly, we're going to discuss community funding. So the different types of community funding, which is going to be your most common. It is a good idea to know the definition of each one of these as well as examples. So if and when you see them on the ASWB exam, you're able to recognize the type of funding that is being provided. So a categorical grant can be used only for specifically aided programs and usually are limited to narrowly defined activities. So an example of a categorical grant would be something like food stamps or any type of education program like Head Start and or Medicaid. A block grant can be used only for a specifically aided set of programs, okay? For example, the federal government may offer block grants to help fund law enforcement, public health, or community development programs. So this could be after school programs for youth. This could be teen pregnancy. This could be senior citizen recreation programs. So anything that develops the community, block grants can aid in that. And then there's general revenue sharing, which can be used for any purpose not expressly prohibited by the federal or state law and is not limited to narrowly defined activities. So an example of that would be every year the federal government provides $200 million in funding to a city with no strings attached. So basically, our cities love this type of money because they can generally spend it how they see fit. And then another type of funding, which is not really funding, when you think of it in monetary terms, but it is an in-kind contribution and it is a non-monetary contribution. So this is goods or services offered free or at less than the usual charge. That means that they can result in an in-kind contribution. So think about goods and services, products, or whatever that are donated or contributed to a cause or an organization. So that's a wrap. I hope that this was very informative for you. If you want to learn about more of our study resources, coaching sessions, and even our wonderful online course, you can visit the website. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe us on all the platforms. Facebook, we have a Savvy Social Work Exam Prep private group. So if you're not a member there, please join there. Follow us on Instagram. TikTok, we still working on TikTok. We're on there, but we still working on TikTok and definitely on the YouTube channel for lots of free content. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for entrusting me with this masterclass for you. And again, I hope that it was very informative. I wanted to try to provide information on a topic that I know that there is not a lot of information on out there. So I do pray that this was helpful for you, and that your investment was worth it so you can go out and get that pass the savvy way.